By then, President Roosevelt was hard at work on a populist agenda of his own, pushing Congress to create the Social Security programs, welfare for the poor, and jobs for 8 million people on public projects of every description. This was called the Second 100 Days, and it reshaped American life.
The legislation of the second 100 days gives an underpinning to the economy that's not been there before. There's now a system of unemployment compensation, of old age pensions. The United States, for the first time, has a centralized banking system. And by 1936, there are visible signs of recovery.
6 years after he lost his grocery store, Miriam Johnson's father found a steady job with the Works Progress Administration.
He was so happy to get up in the morning. My father was so happy, even though the work, by this time he wasn't a kid, and it was pick and shovel work, you know. But he was so happy to have something to do and to get paid for it. To me,
to help people. It may not have been enough. In some cases, it didn't help, but somebody was trying. And one had that feeling that maybe it was going to work.
The Roosevelt era revolutionized the perception of what government owes the people and what its role is.
We are fighting to save a great and precious form of government.
The programs that he put in were imperative for that period. And I think it was a godsend that we had him, and we maintained the democracy that we had all cherished.
Campaigning for a second term in 1936, Roosevelt told a cheering crowd, "You look happier today than you did 4 years ago." And they were. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was re-elected by the greatest margin in the history of American politics. In the 4 years since President Roosevelt had taken office, America had experienced a revolution, and it had been led by the president himself. The New Deal programs of the Depression era transformed the country's landscape. One project alone, the Tennessee Valley Authority, built dams, brought electricity, ended floods, and lifted families out of poverty in 7 states. But as he took office for his second term in January 1937, Roosevelt's New Deal still had not completely overcome the Depression in America. By 1937, the Depression in Germany was over. Adolf Hitler had kept his promise to give the people work.
Unemployed people disappeared practically overnight. There were no young, healthy men standing at the corners of Berlin and begging around for pennies. People had jobs, were happy.
The secret of Germany's new prosperity was rearmament. There were plenty of jobs making powerful new weapons and building a highway system as much for tanks as for cars.
It was also a kind of New Deal, but he was preparing for war.
The first step came in March of 1936 when German troops marched unopposed into the Rhineland to reoccupy territory lost to France after the First World War.
He was leading us to the place of the sun. And I sincerely and honestly believed in all that. And when I came home and told my father, arguments started, and my mother often said, "No, Fritz, leave that boy alone. He can't help it that he is so brainwashed." And then I started again with my mother. "What do you mean by brainwashed?" And now, of course, I realize my parents were right, but it's all too late.
Now Adolf Hitler would try to keep another promise to the German people: to build a new German empire. One, he said, that would last 1,000 years.